All right, welcome everyone, and thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Listen, if you've been feeling that heavy weight of modern burnout lately, or, if your mind feels like a web browser with 100 tabs open all at the exact same time, you are absolutely in the right place. Let's just dive right into this. Today, we're exploring a philosophy that is seeing a massive viral resurgence online right now, getting millions of views from people who are just desperately looking for a little peace of mind. We're breaking down the profound and honestly deeply counterintuitive wisdom of the philosopher Alan Watts. Specifically, we're looking at his teachings on the absolute necessity of letting go. Because let's face it, we live in a world that constantly tells us to hustle harder, fix every single flaw, and micromanage our destinies. But Watts, well, he offered a completely different, almost radical approach.
So here is a wild paradox I want you to just sit with for a second. What if trying to fix your anxiety is what's actually causing it? I mean, we are totally conditioned to believe that when we have a problem, especially an emotional one like overthinking, we need to attack it, right? We have to dissect it, manage it, and beat it. But Watts suggests that this exact struggle, this exhausting mental wrestling match we put ourselves through, is literally the source of our distress. It's exactly like being caught in quicksand. The harder you thrash around trying to pull yourself out, the faster you sink.
Okay, part one, the trap of overthinking.
Now, before we can fully grasp Watt's solution, we have to take a really honest look at the problem we're all dealing with. Chronic anxiety and overthinking are, without a doubt, the defining pain points of our modern era. And it totally makes sense. We are constantly bombarded with information and expectations. But the trap isn't just the outside world. It's how we've actually trained our own minds to respond to it. Just look at the modern mindset. First, we have this absolute obsession with control. We want to guarantee outcomes and map out every single variable. Second, we are constantly fearing the future. We spend so much mental energy projecting into a tomorrow that hasn't even happened yet. And third, we are constantly trying to fix ourselves. We treat ourselves like these broken machines on an assembly line, convinced that if we just micromanage our lives a little bit better, we'll finally be happy. But spoiler alert, this just traps us in an endless, exhausting loop of stress.
Because here's the absolute kicker. The very act of trying to force a resolution causes the anxiety. I know, it's a harsh truth to swallow, but it is so deeply liberating once it clicks. When your mind is racing, your first instinct is to forcefully command it to stop. But you literally cannot use an agitated mind to calm an agitated mind. Fighting your overthinking doesn't loosen the mental knot, it just pulls it tighter and tighter until you end up having anxiety about your anxiety.
Moving on to part two. Stop trying to fix yourself.
You can think of Watts as the ultimate anti-self-help philosopher. We live in this multi-billion-dollar industry that constantly tells you you're a work in progress, that you need constant optimization. But Watts steps in and says something entirely different. Just look at the comparison. The modern mindset is all about forcing outcomes, worrying about what's next, and tirelessly trying to fix every perceived flaw. It is so heavy, and it's exhausting. But contrast that with the Watts mindset. That is about flowing with circumstances, trusting the natural course of life, and just letting go of the reins. It's shifting away from this need for constant intervention to simply letting things be. It's the difference between frantically swimming upstream against a strong current versus finally turning around and just letting the river carry you.
Stop trying to fix yourself. I'm just going to leave a brief beat of silence for that to really sink in. You are not broken. You don't need to be solved like some complicated math equation. What Watts is pointing out here is that you're simply caught in an illusion, the illusion that you can, and somehow should, control everything. The moment you stop treating yourself as a problem to be solved, a massive amount of mental energy is instantly freed up.
Which brings us to part three. Act as if nothing matters.
Now, this is probably the most widely misunderstood part of Watts' entire philosophy. At first glance, especially to our modern, productivity-obsessed brains, acting as if nothing matters sounds kind of reckless, doesn't it? It sounds apathetic, like some depressing nihilism. But actually, scratch that. The real meaning behind this is incredibly beautiful. When Watts says nothing matters, he is absolutely not telling you to give up on life. Not at all. He is talking about liberation from the crushing pressure of cosmic importance. He's talking about the profound relief that washes over you when you finally release the illusion of control. We all walk around carrying the weight of the world, acting like every tiny decision is going to make or break the universe. Realizing that in the grand cosmic scheme, your momentary embarrassments or rigid little plans don't actually carry that do-or-die weight, that is the ultimate freedom. That's true peace.
As this famous Watts quote concisely puts it, don't take life too seriously. And there's a reason millions of people revisit this exact sentiment online today. We desperately need the reminder. We have got to drop the heavy burden of constantly acting as the general manager of the universe. When you stop taking every single detail so seriously, you actually free yourself up to enjoy the experience of being alive. You stop treating life as this grim duty or some test you have to pass, and you start treating it like a dance you get to participate in.
All right, final section, part 4, the art of letting go.
So, we've talked about the trap of overthinking, the realization that we don't need fixing, and the freedom of dropping our self-importance. But how do we actually apply this in our real day-to-day lives? What does it actually look like to let go? Well, try this massive perspective shift on for size. You are not living life, life is living you. Just think about that. We are so used to being the driver, the one who has to forcefully inject energy and direction into every single moment. But Watts flips this entirely. You are an expression of life itself. You don't have to consciously force your heart to beat or your lungs to breathe, right? Life does that for you. When you shift your perspective from being the separate, isolated ego that has to fight the world to being a natural part of the world that can just observe and trust its flow, the anxiety just begins to melt away.
Which leads us to this remarkably simple yet deeply challenging rule: don't force anything. There is just sheer relief to be found in abandoning rigid structures. Think about the times in your life when you've been the most miserable. Usually it's when you were trying to force a relationship to work that wasn't working, or force a career path that didn't fit, or even force an emotion you weren't actually feeling. Trusting life, instead of fighting it, means paying attention to where the natural openings are and walking through them rather than trying to punch a hole straight through a solid brick wall.
Let's distill this whole philosophy down into 3 super practical mindset shifts you can use the very next time you feel overwhelmed. Step 1. Notice the urge to control. Awareness is literally everything. Just try to catch yourself tightening up and trying to force an outcome. Step 2. Stop fearing the future. Bring your attention right back to the present moment, rather than the imaginary catastrophes your mind is projecting. And step 3. Trust life and let it flow. Just remind yourself that you do not have to figure it all out right this second. And I want to reassure you with this beautifully comforting concept derived from our sources today. The universe is listening. This implies something incredibly powerful. It means that when you stop frantically forcing things, when you quiet your mind and drop your rigid demands, life actually steps in and delivers what you need. You aren't being ignored when you surrender control. Rather, you finally get out of your own way so that things can unfold exactly as they are meant to.
Which leaves us with this final provocative thought to take away from our explainer today. What if you stopped trying to control the entire universe and just let it flow? Just imagine the energy you would get back. Imagine the relief. The next time you find yourself totally tangled in anxiety, trying to fix a problem in your mind by overthinking it to death, I challenge you to try the exact opposite. Step back, loosen your grip, act as if nothing matters, and just see what happens when you let it flow. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one.